What is going on, everyone? My name's Boit, and I'm back with some more Age of Mythology. The Titans action spawning in the red color, playing as Ra. His name is Squash. It's a complete salty run back here, because playing in the blue color, playing as Hades, his name is Kimo, but it's a different map, a completely different map. We've got a four caribou frozen waste 2 gold mine. This is a really interesting one, because what it means is that the Ra player really needs to scout well with this Pharaoh, find secondary hunt, and really be aware of the build orders here, because this isn't really not a common map here. Beyond this, the fact that it's a 2 gold mine frozen wastes really does open up possibilities here for some more defensive play and also some more timing attack orientated play here on this one. This is the second game we've seen Squash doing this mining camp placement. I'm not 100% sure I understand why he does this, because he's got this one over here. Yeah, I would garner that if you put the mining camp over here, you're going to have a better gold mining experience than the other way, but maybe it's better in the long run, because if you're on this side, no. I'm going to do some testing on this and actually see which one's better, because if Squash is right, which he might be, because it is Squash, maybe it's time to change the way we place mining camps.
Rig.
We'll have to try a whole different bunch of positions, because this is just the way that seems right when you put it on the long side. But what if you put it on the corner, or you put it on the flat side here? Depending on how many villages you put on that mining camp, it could really change the gold income you get. Anyways, we'll think about that later. But back to the game here, we do see the villagers have found some caribou over here. There are some walrus here, but it's behind a snowy pine here. It's a bit of a low hunt map in the end of the day, but these types of maps are actually quite good for Greek, in my opinion, because your builds kind of focus around going onto these hunt places, and it works quite well for you. But we'll see how things are going to go, as we also see Kimo going on to some pigs nice and early here. This is definitely a style of play that's worth it if you only want to have 6 villagers on hunt in the classical age. But at this point, you've still got a little bit left on your... Maybe he doesn't. A little bit left on your caribou, and maybe you want to come over onto these caribou as well a little bit later. But we'll see how it's going to go. Squash sending villagers over here. The Pharaoh going to come in onto this position as well. Villagers getting pulled off of golds here. It looks like the gold, as the temple is coming up as well for Squash. So it kind of looks like he's going to be going for a fairly fast advance time on this map. This town center does secure this gold mine, so it's probably not a bad idea, but no wood income this time for Squash. So he's completely... I tell a lie, he's getting his wood now. So it's exactly the same build. For some reason, going for 5 villagers on wood. I think Squash just mines exactly 120. Exactly. Well, let's work it out. 100 wood for husbandry, 50 wood for plow, 150 for shadoof is 300, and then 420 wood behind that. So he probably just chops exactly 420 wood, and then he pulls off and goes everyone onto gold as an idea. It's very interesting. Thanks for the raiding party, Punkstar. We'll see how it's going to go. It's going to be a relatively late advance time for Squash yet again. Kimo, on the other hand, Kimo has actually said, I asked him about this, and he actually says he doesn't actually have any build orders for any gods except for Ra, and even Ra he kind of wings most of the time. And we're actually seeing this very much so in this game, as Kimo is going for a nearly 5-minute advance time with Greek. Now, against Egyptian, you can go for like a 5:15 advance, and you can go for a 5:15 advance and drop 2 town centers at the same time with Greek on this specific type of map. If you play the build order correctly. But given the way that Kimo is playing it here, he's only going to be able to get 1 town center and maybe have village a little bit of extra resources in the wrong areas. Especially because he was on goats and everything. Maybe not even have just less resources. As we see Tar coming through, but no Probably not enough villagers on gold at the moment to even drop the town center straight away. As the villagers finishing up on this wood line, you can see that pickaxes probably come through. He needs to get up to 200 wood here, and he will be pulling those villagers off immediately. I actually really like that from a Ra perspective to only gather exactly the amount of wood that you need and nothing more. As the villagers are going to come over onto this town center. In fact, Squash is basically going to have the perfect amount of gold to throw this up immediately. Whereas Kimo here, what is he doing? He's unfortunately on the wrong town center. I will reiterate, the town center that your opponent is going to be going for, 9 times out of 10, is the town center that has got Hunt close to it. Because that's where the villagers are. Those are the villages that Ra uses to get the town center. So you can always know which town center your opponent is going to go for based on where your opponent's hunt is. And Kimo didn't scout that. I mean, technically he should know because he knows that there's 7 caribou here. He knows that there's no caribou over here because he scouted that. So, and he knows that the walrus are here. So there has to be a town center over here. As Squash gets that one up, he's immediately going to be throwing a whole bunch of farms down on this location. You can see he's going to do this little cheeky windmill format around his town center here. So it's not quite the windmill format. I think this farm is misplaced. Am I wrong? Yeah, so he's not going to be able to, he has to place it there in the end. But it's totally fine. Farm placement is it's not that important. I just like the look of it, that's all. As the town center coming up on this location. I mean, he does have caribou over here, I guess. So he can use those. But this one is equally, I mean, they're both equally good. This one's probably a little bit better because the forest allows you to move in and back from this hunt and this gold mine and this forest, whereas this forest is making it really tough to defend this gold mine over here. As Squash goes for the rain, he goes for a 14 farm rain. Is that right? Yeah, 14 farm rain in the end. And he's going to have 13 villagers on gold with pickaxe. His economy is going to be absolutely gigantic in this game. And we'll see how it's all going to go. As the Wadget, I'm going to be doing some scouting, picking up goats. I'm interested to see if this is something that I actually think is very underutilized from a Ra perspective, is you go for the fast rain, but as soon as that rain is finished, you actually should be jumping off of the farms and going over onto the berry bushes and going onto your herdables and finishing eating up all of those, because the farms with plow, it's still slower than gathering from herdables and berries. But Ra players don't do that for whichever reason. And you can always obviously come back onto the farms later. As Kimo is yet again grabbing a third town center in the face of Squash. Now Squash is not going to be scouting this out, and this does give access to this hunt over here, which is very, very nice. But Kimo, we'll see what he's gonna learn from this game than last game. I think going for 3 town centers against Ra on an open map like Frozen Waste is asking for trouble in the very least, because really what you need to counter the Ra raids is prodromus. You need prodromus, and you don't have them because the cavalry come out in and they're fierce and they just run around and they just kill everything, and you don't really have a counter to it as Greek. As like honestly, this is such a bizarre thing to watch and witness. If I'm playing this game against like literally any Greek player, this would never be allowed. 100% of the time, if I'm on this gold mine and my Greek player's here, his hero is going to be checking this out and going to be preventing that from going on. And I feel like Kimo is asleep at the wheel here in this game. He's throwing down the stable. He doesn't have his Chiron out. I don't see his Chiron. Well, he does have his Chiron out, but he's just not active in this game at all. And maybe it's just because there's so many gold mines in the main base, and Kimo just thinks it's not even worth the time because there's no reason for him to be over here. But there's a Migdol stronghold going up here, and Squash is just going to be getting everything that he wants here. And look at this. Is he getting upgrades? Well, he's got a whole bunch of villagers on wood here, so he's going to be getting upgrades very fast. Throws down the second monument yet again in this game. Loves that second monument. Sees the town center in his face getting grabbed there, but I don't think he's going to mind all too much seeing that. He's going to just go straight into cavalry and put so much pressure on. He doesn't even need chariot archers here. Honestly, he could get himself irrigation, shaft mine, then pull everyone off of wood and go mass cavalry, and there would be very little that Kimo could do to stop that army composition. Because it's so absurdly strong as Ra. as we see farms coming down all over the place. The villagers over here still eating up that hunt, leaving this hunt as well not eaten. The rock flying in onto this location over here as the Chiron's going to be chasing that one down. That's a nice find here for Kimo. I think he's still kind of not microing this one 100% correctly, as you need to get underneath the rock, but the rock does end up falling as the cavalry are going to come in, start sniping some units down. We do have the Ajax, the Minotaur, Chiron. We see the Hippocon and Toxotes getting built out yet again for Kimo. As Squash here, he's just pumping out Chariot Archers and Cavalry as they're going to start moving around the map. They know that there's villagers. They have to be somewhere over here. He's finding some herdables over on this location as Kimo's coming in over here trying to pick off some Patsukos, as it looks like Squash hasn't yet found the villagers, but his spider senses is tingling on this location. He's going to be finding the villagers over here, but they've already retreated away. Kimo smartly pulling back onto this location, getting his farm set up. The villagers on this gold mine might get spotted out here. I think a good way to play this from the Ra perspective is actually to just locust the farms on this location here. Hit 6 farms here, pick off those. Can be completely valid use of locust in the very early stages of the game here, as we see a marker coming down for Squash, and effectively Squash is just going to be doing the exact same strategy this game as last game. He's going to be going for a 2-town center fast, Mythic here, or not a fast Mythic, a semi-fast Mythic, I guess is what you call it. 2 villagers falling there and Restoration being used. Nice play by Kimo to get the Restoration off, but he still loses 2 villagers, even though, as we do see the Chariot Archers coming in onto this position, going to start hitting those multi-raids on many different locations. We'll see if Kimo's going to be able to realize this as Squash coming in over here, going to try and take down some villagers on that location here. Kimo here, what is going on here? He's trying to throw farms up everywhere. 101 of 125 population, though. His macro in this game is a lot more solid than last game, but he's still getting pushed around the map with these multi-raids that Squash is doing. He's got units kind of spread out all over the map, searching everything possible here, as Squash needs to get his house up, just about to get that one down, just about to be able to advance to the next age. Plenty of wood in the bank here. One thing that Kimo has done in this game is effectively handed a whole bunch of farms over to Squash as well, because Squash is nearly 100% of the time going to be able to take this town center down in this situation, and building farms on this location is just effectively handing them over to Squash here. As you do see the unit's going to be pulling back, the villagers getting angry, wanting to shank down just a little bit here, as we do see the army going to be coming in, trying to snipe down some villagers on this town center. Going to be losing a cavalry or 2 to make it happen, but Kimo Garrison's in here, going to now take down those cavalry for free, or for the trade of a couple of resources of idle time. Nice play there for Kimo to be aware of that, as Kimo just about to hit the next age here, but Squash has already clicked up through Osiris. We've got 50 favor in the bank. We've got a siege works coming down on this location for the immediate production of those catapults. If we take a look at the economy here of Squash as well, he's got him all those perfect upgrades here. Kimo, on the other hand, he's got just the standard upgrades, not too much here. Still waiting on that heroic age. You will be able to click up, potentially be able to get to the heroic age before Squash hits the mythic age here. It's probably gonna, no, Squash will get to the mythic age just a little bit earlier than him. I actually think that you could probably go for Tornado here, for Horus here, break this down immediately without even building any siege at all, and Shifting Sands grab this town center as well while that's all going on, and be in a really, really good position to immediately win the game. But we'll see what Kimo's going to do to be able to defend this. He's got no buildings around this location at all here, as the village is going to be garrisoning in here. As Squash is just kind of being a little bit obnoxious under this town center. It's not that it's not that protective. Like you would assume the villagers farming underneath the town center is relatively well protected, but Squash is just picking off villager after villager there without taking nearly any losses, and it's just getting super value here in this game. As Squash hits the mythic age 13 minutes into the game roughly here, as catapults starting to come out, villagers here can jump over onto this gold mine over here. We see that Horus is coming in for Squash. So Squash now is going to have fortified town centers, 144 of 144 population on 2 town centers, compared to Kimo, who's 3 town centers here. He does have, he's 4 town centers here, so he does have 160 population total, but his army quality is incredibly behind in this game. And we'll see how how Squash is going to make this happen. He's already getting the catapults out. We see the units trying to just move in, snipe stuff off, trying to get value out of his army while trading it to get those catapults out, get the stronger units out, maybe get Patsukos out as well. 60 favor in the bank here. Villagers over here still mining for free as Kimo hasn't pressured Squash at all in this game, but the economy of Kimo was much, much better in this game than last game. However, now those chariot archers here, we are going to be seeing a little bit of a trade for this. Taking down the Ajax, going to be pulling away from that one afterwards. The catapult starting to siege down this town center. 2 catapults are out, 3 on the way, as Squash is also starting a relatively decent trade route for a Frozen Waste game where the maps don't allow you to put the market in the corner, but it's still a weak trade route because of that nonetheless. As the town center is going to be getting pulled down, fortified town center on the way here for Kimo, as the villagers are going to be taking those chariot archers down. So these ones are going to be pulling back here as best as they can. As now we see the villagers coming off the gold mine, going to move forward, grab this town center immediately, and Kimo is in a similar position that he was in last game, but this game he's got an underworld coming in onto here. This might be a little bit premature here for Kimo. Like, he chucks the underworld down, his units aren't really here. He's going to be able to push in over onto this location immediately, but I'm not sure about that one from Kimo. The catapult's also going to take it down immediately here. What is Kimo thinking with this play? He's trying to repair this back up as best as he can. He gets himself the heavy Hippocon. He's making some Peltast as well. Going to try and micro them to the best of his ability. But the town center just shoots up. There's no stopping that town center once the Pharaoh or Son of Osiris is empowering it with a handful of units there. There's just no stopping it. As the catapults here are going to be getting cleaned up, and the underworld passage does end up staying alive for just a little bit longer, but more catapults are going to be coming through for Squash in the near future here. As he's going to be able to take that out. We're not seeing the Patsukos spam that we were seeing in last game just yet. The Chariot Archer still unrelentingly raiding his opponent here on this location. I think, like, Underworld is such a good god power that you have to use it in a really good position. Like, if your opponent's pushing this town center over here, you can Underworld from here, send siege onto this, and then defend on this much easier than but Kimo just kind of wastes that, as now he's looking to get to the Mythic Age. He's got his market up. We do see the Peltas trying to take down those Chariot Archers, but they're too fast for those Peltas, and we are seeing Artemis coming through now for Kimo. The big problem here is that there are still half or basically a large gold mine behind this town center, and there's a large gold mine over here. So taking one of these town centers is not down and actually having some success there is not really going to help Kimo out in the slightest here in this game. There's a heavy Hippocon coming in onto this position. We don't see any armory upgrades here from Kimo. I think we are now seeing copper shields come through. It's just going to be a big help coming in. And look at this. Squash just goes, yeah, Kimo, those farms you built, those are mine, and I'm getting myself a free. What we'll have them a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 farms worth of gold there, and just live the dream where that's concerned. And we'll see if Kimo can hold on in this one, as now the catapult Son of Osiris army composition is in, and like honestly, the army composition that Kimo should be going for, and I don't know why he's not. It's just mass Hippocon, mass Pierce upgrades, and he would be able to win this army at this point. Even the champion chariots with everything else, but he's making these Toxotes because he is Hades, and I just don't think you need to really be making Toxotes in the slightest in this matchup. But we'll see if he's going to be able to hold on, as Squash is getting further and further ahead in this game. Looking at the armor upgrades, he's already at nearly full iron, ladies and gentlemen. It's 17 minutes into the game. He's nearly at full iron. This is what good macro and spending your resources looks like. He's only got the one armory one armory as well, which means he's been consistently buying armory upgrades since the moment he hit the heroic age. Or the moment he put the armory down, basically, because every single upgrade takes around about a minute to, or 30 seconds, I guess. So 2 upgrades takes 30 seconds, and then you have probably 3 minutes to get all your bronze upgrades out, maybe 4 minutes or something like that. It's just a crazy amount of resources spent in the right direction here from Squash. As the Migdol stronghold does get up, the Achilles going down over here as he is trying to sacrifice his life to get a little bit of extra damage done on the Son of Osiris here. And Kimo is in the Mythic Age now. The question is, what is he going to do about this this earthquake? We've got sun-dried mudbrick, we've got masons, we've got fortified town centers. In order to survive against a earthquake, you basically have to surround your town center with military buildings and have architects. But yeah, we do see the Hippocon coming onto this location over here. The earthquake looks like it will get dropped here. Going to take down the fortified town center and the Migdol stronghold on this position here. So in reality, the best play here for Kimo is to actually shift the battle up over here and try and grab this for himself, as the village is going to sit idle over here. Do we see a Chimera coming in onto this position? It looks like he's sending every single one of his units up over there. There are catapult rolling in now for Squash to start taking down this town center as well. So it's not like Kimo can just leave this position. Kimo doesn't have a fortress just yet, so he can't get himself the Heliopoli out at this point. But yes, imagine Underworld here coming onto this position. We've got so many villagers putting this town center up at the moment. We've got Champion Hippocon in for Kimo. We'll see if he's going to be able to stop this one. We see the Chariot Archers coming through. They're going to be able to easily beat those Toxotes that are in there. And this town center isn't even, it is being delayed, but it's not being prevented just yet, as some Hades Shades are making their way through. The Chimera going to burn some of those Chariot Archers down as the town center here does manage to get up, but the Mummy is already in pursuit here, coming through to deny that Chimera his existence in this game. As that is immediately the click there, as now moving over onto this location, the catapult here. They are getting slowly taken down, but that Son of Osiris just sitting in the back there, able to clean up those melee units incredibly well with the help of those cavalry, doing a fantastic job where that's concerned, as the town center does end up getting taken down there. Nice play from Squash here in this game, as the Toxotes is getting taken down over here, and everything is fine and dandy here for Squash. 5,000 score to 4,500 score, as it's still looking very, very close there. But Kimo, 140 population against the Son of Osiris, which is still there. He does have the champion units, but look at the armory upgrade deficit that Kimo is facing here. It's basically full iron for Squash. Is Squash getting himself that final upgrade? I think he maybe just got it then. No, he's still waiting on that. Doesn't have quite the gold to get that one, as his villagers have to migrate up to the top location over here as his gold mine's finished, as they are going to be wandering over there very, very slowly. But Squash can sell some resources now if he really needs it, as he is slowly but surely controlling this location over here. I don't see Kimo doing a whole lot to slow, to really put pressure onto Squash here. Squash is just doing everything that he wants here. So this is just like a slowly dying Kimo. It does kind of look like Kimo basically plays Hades a lot like he plays Ra, which, to be honest, just doesn't really work. You have to play Hades like Greek, and with a touch of Ra in there, because it depends on the matchup. But if you're playing against Ra, Ra's economy is just absurdly strong if you allow it to be. As the village is getting cleaned up over here, Chariot Archer's taking them down. Kimo's economy here, is he still building villages? Yes, he is, but he's just losing them left, right, and center. The champion units of Kimo are still flowing in. He's got himself champion Toxotes here, but with no armor upgrades, it's just so far behind. A Migdol stronghold getting placed down onto this location as well to secure the town center and get a whole lot more production happening. Got 166 of one, or 164 of 166 population for Squash because of that Eye of Horus relic that he's managed to grab there. We are seeing these Hades Shades being a little bit annoying to the camel caravans, but it's not that big of a deal. The camel caravan trade route here for Squash is only getting him 37 gold a trip, but it's still decent, as the fortress does get taken down there, as Kimo still can't even get himself out Heliopoli in this game, which, I mean, arguably they're better than having champion Toxotes, and I just wish that Kimo would have not gone Toxotes here and instead focused on Fortress and everything else, as now the Migdol is up and Squash is going to be attempting to grab himself the town center here, as the Son of Osiris getting brought in, and the Hippocon try and take him down, but immediately garrisoning in there, realizing he needs to continue to use this to fight this one, as the town center is slowly going to inch up. We are seeing more units getting thrown in onto this trade route over here, as this gold mine getting mined up, but it looks like Kimo in that moment realizing he is just too far behind in tech and not able to catch up here. Resource-wise is what I'm interested here in this game, because I feel like, look, Kimo here, he is close to Squash in terms of resources. The thing is that Squash is spending less resources on buildings because he's an upgrade. Look at the farms at the moment. They only cost 40 gold. They cost a little bit more without the sun-dried mud brick, just with Shadoof. They cost like 45 gold or something. But he's spending less resources on the gold. And he's overall, I think he's probably also spending less resources on his line upgrades as well overall. So for Hades to kind of compete with the Ra, you actually need to be at a higher level of resources than the Ra, which if you go 3 town centers and you don't lose any villages, it's more than possible to actually make that happen in these types of situations. But Kimo here just loses so many villages and loses so much uptime on his economy without doing any pressure onto Squash. Obviously, maybe not obviously, if Kimo would scouted this out a little bit, he could have been using his Chiron over here to harass the gold off on this location and this location. It would have been really, really good. But he didn't do any of that, and Squash just shows how strong Ra can be if uncontested here. If you guys enjoyed this game, please consider hitting the follow on the Twitch. If you're on the YouTube, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next game.